Can you please talk to your 12-year-old son who you've never seen before? In May of 2020, Rick Riordan revealed that a new Percy Jackson in the Olympian series was coming to Disney+. Fans from around the world rejoiced. Rick said, "Guys, this is going to be the accurate adaptation. No more of that hogwash the movies had where they started changing things from the book." I remember I watched season 1 and I liked it overall. I thought there were a lot of things the series did well, but there were multiple times where I would watch it and I would just be like, why did you make that change? You have the book right in front of you. You have the blueprint for an amazing series. With the movie, it's a little bit more understandable because you have a time constraint. So I'm not sure when you have a series and you have essentially unlimited time to play around with to adapt every scene of the book, why you decided to make so many changes. Some changes are to be expected. I mean, adapting anything to a different media form is going to necessitate some changes. Production companies are also trying to reach a larger audience because producing a TV show takes a way bigger budget than writing a book. The studios, since it takes more money to make a TV show, have to make a bigger profit. So they're going to change some things so that the source material will be more relatable to a bigger audience. I assume some of the changes to the TV show are because Riordan wanted to revisit things he wrote nearly 20 years ago, and I completely get that. I want to revisit outfits that I wore even 10 days ago. Like, who was she? Who thought that was a good idea? How did people let her out of the house in an outfit that looked like that? Who was making fun of her in a secret group chat because that was a crazy outfit? So I get it. If I wrote a whole book 20 years ago when I was 5, I'd probably want to revisit that too. I cried for 2.5 years straight because I got a master's cup. There are some changes that they made to the TV show that I like, but there are a lot more changes that I think really fundamentally alter the plot and the vibe of the show and the original book overall. And I want to discuss why I think those weren't good changes, but I also want to give credit where credit is due. I do want to recognize that it is incredibly hard to make an adaptation. It's not simply just writing down what was in the book. When you're dropping all these little hints and teasers about how involved you are with the show and how great it's going to be and how amazing it's been being behind the scenes, it's important that you deliver on these fan expectations for an accurate TV series. When you and your team make changes that don't add clear value or actively make the show worse, it makes it look like you were lying when you said you were dedicated to making the most accurate possible version for the fans. In this video, I want to go through the changes that were made and explain why they're good changes, necessary for adaptation, or baffling decisions that no one who was a fan of the series would make. So I didn't have anything orange to wear. This is kind of the closest color that I had, but what I did have is these wave earrings. I got off Shein back in 2020. So if I start exhibiting symptoms of lead poisoning, I think we know what the culprit was. So we got our first, I would say, major deviation from the book at the 8.5-minute mark. Like, you could not even last this long without making a change that, quite frankly, fundamentally alters the universe at large. Okay, impatience. So in both versions, one of Hades' Furies disguises themselves as a teacher at Percy's school in order to attack him. In the book, she leads him away from everyone else into an empty room in the museum and changes into a Fury and attacks him there. Now, in the show, she just attacks him on the sidewalk in front of everyone, and everyone just acts like nothing happened. Now, this shows a complete misunderstanding of the mythos of the universe at large. So I want to explain a concept called the mist. If you've read the books, I think the mist gets explained like a little better there, but they do explain it in the show as well. Essentially, the mist works to protect mortal eyes from recognizing and comprehending the mythological creatures around them. I might be misremembering, but I think an example in the books is like Percy has his sword drawn out in front of a mortal guy and he's like, "Hey, put your gun away, bro." And Percy's like, "Oh, okay." So the mist makes him perceive that the sword is a gun because, like, who would have a sword out in public at these times? Like, we're not scallywags anymore. We're using guns. That's the way the mist works. It doesn't make mortals not see what's happening. It just warps their perception of the mythological world around them. So this scene is just a huge misunderstanding of the mist. The mist comes up a lot through the rest of the books. So it's like, by changing the mist here, you now have to change the way the mist works in the rest of the books. I know it's New York, but like, The way the mist works is that the mortals would have seen Mrs. Dodds attacking Percy and they would have been like, yo, what's up with that? Actually, let me try it in a New York accent. Hey, I'm walking here. Get this old lady off the student. That's how they would have been like. That's how the mist works. I hope this first example is a good example of how things get changed that should be impacting the rest of the material in the rest of the series. Okay, after that, they all return to school and Percy basically gets asked to not come back next year / expelled. Rick Riordan personally oversees his expulsion. This is another fundamental change that I think should alter the course of season 1 a lot more than it does. Grover lies to the administrators to get Percy kicked out. In the books, Grover's like fully sticking up for him. He's like, no, he didn't do anything. No, don't expel him, guys. And Percy's like really, really hurt by Grover's betrayal. So this is something that should impact their friendship and their relationship for the rest of the series. Percy doesn't fully understand at this time that Grover's just doing it to protect him, and quite frankly, that's not really explained. We don't really get a scene where Grover's like, hey man, I'm sorry I lied. It was for your protection. Like, I was your protector. I was doing what I thought was best. I know it hurt your feelings. Like, we don't ever get a scene where they address it. They just kind of roll over it like it didn't happen and then continue their relationship like it continued in the books without this early betrayal. Like, why make these changes if you're not going to do anything with it? This could have been a really great moment later on for Grover and Percy to have a conversation about protectors and the boundaries they have to face and the sacrifices they have to make to get demigods home safely. But it's never addressed. Then we meet Sally, Percy's mom. She's awesome. I love Sally. Sally's been the queen forever since the original series. Like, she's so hardworking. She does everything for Percy. They actually kind of flesh out her character a lot more in the show, which I really like. She gets a lot of flashback scenes with Percy that kind of develop their relationship more. That's one of the changes I really like. I'm not going to go through the Sally flashback scenes because they're not super plot relevant, but I really do like that they took the time to flesh out Sally more because she's such an instrumental character that does get sidelined for all the mythological stuff. A character they changed in the show is Gabe, Sally's husband and Percy's stepfather. He's an abusive butthole in the original series. It's strongly implied that he physically abuses Sally. In the show, he's just a bum, and I kind of like that change of downgrading him from like abusive to just being a bum. It makes a little bit more sense why Sally would stay in that relationship and expose Percy to that kind of environment. And Sally even marries Gabe in the first place in both the book and the series is because he's so normie, he's so like human that his human smell overpowers Percy's like demigod smell. So that's the whole reason she marries him, to protect Percy. Percy and his mom go to a cabin in Montauk, which is a beach in New York, I think. I also like their time here at Montauk better than the books. I think they do more to show them like having a good time here. So this is another change I like. Like, it really does seem like they're having a little blast at the beach before Grover shows up. He has no pants on. So Percy sees he's a satyr for the first time. Where'd you think that was going? Grover's like, Sally, Weesa gotta go. And while they're in the car, Grover delivers some exposition to Percy about like the Greek god world. Grover tells him about camp and says it's a safe space. That's a big day for the woke left demigods out there. Grover also reveals that he's 24. Percy is just better than me. I would have been like, Grover, I'm sorry. I don't want to be friends with you anymore. We're just in different stages in life. I'm hype about going to the double digit dance in my middle school gym next week. You're slamming back Jaeger bombs at the bar after our algebra class on Thursday. You're about to be off your parents' health insurance, and I'm learning how to do long division in third period. This is not going to work. Then they get attacked by the Minotaur. Sally distracts the Minotaur by waving Percy's jacket, you know, like kind of a bull rider thing. In the books, Percy's actually the one that waves his jacket to distract the Minotaur, but I do like this change. It shows like Sally's ready to fight to protect Percy. The Minotaur does absolutely dust her ass immediately. It just like squeezes her neck and she bursts into gold dust. Percy's like, no! And then he rages out and fights the Minotaur. He stabs the Minotaur with its own horn, and then it dies, and then he blacks out. That's pretty much episode 1. Overall, it's probably the most accurate episode in this entire series So strap in, there's gonna be a lot more changes to discuss. Episode 2. Percy wakes up with Grover sitting next to his bed. He's at the demigod camp, Camp Half-Blood. Grover's like, hey man, I'm so sorry about your mom, like, dying. Percy's like, I'm actually still mad at you about fully betraying me last episode. I'm raging out of here and I need to find someone that's gonna help me with my mom dying thing. The first person he spots is Mr. D, aka Dionysus, cosplaying a hangover. I love the actor who plays Mr. D. I don't know how to say his last name. Jason something. I think he does great in this role, bringing a little bit of spice to Dionysus. Mr. Brunner, Percy's classics teacher at the school he just got kicked out of, trots over, and he's a centaur, and actually he's Chiron, the legendary instructor of heroes. Mr. Brunner starts taking Percy around the camp, and oh my god, they did such an amazing job bringing it to life. I would say this is the #1 thing the adaptation does really well. I want to be in danger. Like, de-age me to 12, put my life in mortal danger just so I can go to this camp. I'll fight the Chimera, I promise. So Chiron takes Percy to cabin 11, and that's where we're introduced to Luke. I don't think they did the best job explaining it in the TV show. Like, I kind of felt like I was filling that in with my knowledge from the book, but cabin 11 is where they take all the kids that have not been claimed by their godly parents. I think they do a worse job of conveying how crowded cabin 11 is and how much of a problem it is that there are so many kids that are going unclaimed by their godly parents. Luke being in cabin 11 and being face to face with this godly parental neglect every day is a big part of why he ends up against the gods. I think by not showing this godly neglect to the level that you did in the book, it kind of makes it less understandable, I guess, why Luke decided to fight against the gods and ally himself with Kronos, who, like, is the big baddie of the entire Greek world. Luke starts a training montage with Percy so they can figure out what he's good at and maybe get a puzzle piece as to whose son he is. And Percy's, like, not good at any of them. They then go to dinner and Luke explains the point of the burnt offerings at dinner to Percy. He's like, oh, we, like, scrape a little bit off our plate into a fire so that the gods can, like, smell our food and they know we're thinking about them. There's a really cute series original scene where Percy's in the woods by a little fire and he's, like, throwing some blue candy that Sally gave him into the fire to, like, try to do a burnt offering so he can talk to her. Again, there are these great little scenes that show there was care and love from a fan's perspective, but then there are so many major plot or world-changing decisions where I'm like, did you like the books? Percy goes out for a midnight crap and Clarice and 2 other Ares campers kind of follow him to the bathroom. Not a great look. Her cronies try to give Percy a swirly and water comes out of the toilet and hits them in the face and they just, like, leave. Annabeth pops up and she's like, I've been stalking you, Percy. And Percy's like, oh, okay. This is kind of their first meeting in the series. They meet a lot more naturally in the books because Annabeth is actually the one who gives Percy a tour of the camp. Now we get to capture the flag. Annabeth takes Percy to a random log and then vanishes using her invisibility hat. We get some action of campers fighting, and then we cut back to Percy flossing on a rock. Clarisse comes out of nowhere and she attacks him. Clarisse and Percy end up fighting to a spot where the rest of the camp shows up after Percy's team captures the flag. Percy, again, really freaking held his own. In the book, he only does so well because they back him into a creek and the power of water starts making him a better fighter and, like, rejuvenating him and, like, healing his little cuts. But he's just like a kung fu fighter on day 2 in the series, I guess. So instead, because he didn't accidentally go in the water, Annabeth just, like, pushes him into a creek and then his dad claims him. After discovering that Percy is in fact the son of Poseidon, they then banish him to the Poseidon cabin. I don't know who was in charge of the interior decorating here, but they made it look like the least interesting part of an aquarium. They should not be allowed to design anything ever. I was actually rewatching the show and put my hand over my mouth. I was like, you let a 12-year-old sleep in there alone. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking up at a freaking whale's rib cage at night. I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be like, Dad, get the god of interior design down here. Then Percy goes to meet with Chiron and Mr. D, who tells him that Zeus is blaming Poseidon for stealing his lightning bolt. Zeus thinks that Poseidon used Percy to steal it, even though they've, like, literally never talked before. Poseidon has been, like, maybe the most deadbeat dad in the entire series. He might win the Bedad Award, aka the Bad Dad Award, for this entire series. He might be the bedaddest. If he doesn't get the bolt by June 21st, World War III is going to break out. Guys, we used 2 atomic bombs in World War II, so I think we might get a minimum of 3 in World War III, and I feel like that'd be kind of bad. Chiron is like, my theory is that the bolt is with Hades in LA. As Poseidon's son, you are responsible for returning the vault. Percy's like, no, I've literally never met my dad. He's like, I'm Sally Jackson's son. Excuse me. What did Poseidon give me for my 5th birthday? A big fat nothing. So I'm not doing anything for him, thank you. But then Grover bursts in and he's like, Percy, Sally is still alive. Normally when people die, there's a lot more blood and bones broken. Percy's like, oh, well, okay, then I'll go to Hades so I can grab my mom from her and save her. Episode 3 begins with Percy going to consult the Oracle and receive a prophecy from her. They did a good job, like, kind of making her like a creepy mummy girl boss. Percy then chooses Annabeth and Grover to accompany him. Like, why does he trust Grover enough to go with him on this quest when Grover literally snitched on him for, like, basically no reason in school? My understanding is that snitches get stitches, not quests. They start their quest on a bus to go to LA, and Annabeth tries to be, like, a teenage dictator. I think their chemistry right off the bat is really good. I think the actors really work well together. They did a good job. One of the Furies attacks them on the bus, and they run away. In the books, the bus explodes because Zeus strikes it with a lightning bolt, which I think gives a little bit more tension to the quest. They're like, oh, we have like one of the most major and powerful gods trying to kill us because he thinks we stole the bolts. Okay. But Zeus actually doesn't do anything until the last episode in this series. Like, he doesn't show up at all until the last episode. He's not doing little threatening things like, I just threw a lightning bolt at a bus. Like, I am so random. After they leave the bus, they end up in a forest in New Jersey, the worst state in the Union, the armpit of America, the place some have called worse than hell, and they just wander up to a house, basically. They realized right away that they wandered up to Medusa's place. That's a change I like because it kind of was like they looked like the biggest idiots in the world, especially Annabeth, who by that point had been at camp for 5 years when they didn't recognize the place they went to was Medusa's lair. They were walking around looking at all of these super realistic stone statues that have like expressions of terror. Like, they're literally looking at a stone statue that's like next to a stone statue that's like, and they're like, huh, these are really weird sculptures. Like, I wonder why they look like that. The person who sculpted them just must not be good at doing faces. Knucklehead. A hard K. In the series, they're like, oh, okay, this is definitely Medusa's place because, like, why else would there be a bunch of statues that look like they're in terror? Medusa starts to ask them if they know, like, the true story. Like, yeah, she's seen as a monster, and she killed all 300 people that are currently in her emporium right now. But I do like that change to her character. It gives a little bit more depth to both the monsters in the series and the gods, because a lot of the monsters in the series were just really screwed over by the gods being super petty. She still ends up trying to kill them like in the book, and they defeat her and cut her head off just like in the book. They end up getting into an argument after killing Medusa, and Percy is like, the Oracle said that one of my friends would betray me, so I chose Grover because I never thought Grover would betray me, and Annabeth, I chose you because I don't think we can ever be friends, so ergo ipso facto, if you're not my friend, you can't betray me. First off, Grover did already betray you. Back at school at Yancey Academy, he literally lied to your face and the administrator's face to get you expelled. So he literally already did betray you. Like, did the prophecy already become true? Because Grover did betray you, by the way. They end up like resolving the argument and they're all friends again, yay. And then Percy sends Medusa's head to Mount Olympus. At the end of the episode, we get our first Lin-Manuel Miranda cameo. This is one of my favorite episodes in the series. I think the main trio's dynamic was really good here. As much as I have beef with the plot of the series, I can't deny that they did a really good job casting the main 3. I think this is the first episode where you can really tell there were budget constraints. Both of the action scenes in this episode, the scene on the bus and the Medusa fight scene, were a lot shorter than in the books. Like, they're both really brief. Episode 4. So they're in a train in this episode, still heading west. They're like in the Midwest area right now. Echidna, mother of monsters, comes over to them. And she's like, oh, hey, I'm gonna send one of my baby monsters after you. And then they have to leave the train to escape the monster, and they end up getting off in St. Louis. In the books, this was a planned stop. There was some kind of like train layover or something where they had a couple hours in St. Louis before the next train took off. Annabeth also, while they're in St. Louis, really wants to go see the St. Louis Arch because it's such a great piece of architecture. In the series, it's a sanctuary built to Athena. This is a change they had to make it make sense that they'd go to the arch. Like, without that reasoning, it's like, okay, they're actively running away from a monster. Why would they go to the arch? They have to really like bend and twist the plot in a way that doesn't really make sense to get to these iconic set pieces that were present in the books. You had a great pathway to already get there that was present in the books, and you decided to change it. Why? They run inside the arch away from Echidna's monster. And Annabeth is like, wait, since this is my mom's sanctuary, we should ask her for help. And then Annabeth's like, oh, wait, actually, Athena might be pissed about the whole Medusa's head package thing. Even though I hate the whole reason why they were at the arch, I do kind of think this tiny little change where Athena's a little pissed off about the head being said to her is cool. I actually forgot I have a little St. Louis Arch shot glass my dad got me when he had to go there for work. So we can use this to kind of explain where they were. They get to the top of the arch here, and then Percy kind of like tricks Annabeth and Grover into going ahead without him so that he can nobly sacrifice himself and stay behind. There is no rhyme or reason in the show as to why Echidna is going after them because they've entirely removed her motivation from the book as to why she was going after them, which was because Zeus commanded her to. Percy fights the Chimera a little bit at the top of the arch here, and then he falls out of it. Episode 5 begins with Annabeth and Grover looking for Percy. He's wet when he comes out of the water, which is a change from the books. Again, why did you make it? That's like kind of part of his demigod superpower package, that when he goes in the water, he is not wet when he comes out. Percy tells them they need to go to Santa Monica because the nymph he met under the water was like, your dad has something for you there. Ares, god of war, and Clarissa's dad finds them on the side of the road and invites them to join him in a diner. He tells them if they retrieve his shield, he will get them a ride west. They're like, okay, we can go get your shield. Where is it? And he's like, it's at a nearby water park. They're like, fine. And then Grover ends up not coming with them to the water park, I guess so they can develop Ares more. I'm like not entirely sure why he doesn't fully go. It's just less time for the trio to like become the trio that we all know and love from the books. So they've changed it so that it's not just like an old abandoned water park. It's like Hephaestus's workshop. They tried to like have their secret love affair date in Hephaestus's workshop. Like, you didn't think he might have like a godly security camera or something? Like, why did you go there? Like, they chose the abandoned water park in the original book because it's an out of the way location that no one else would have expected them to go to. So the shield is in a water ride with a love theme. In the books, again, because it's an old abandoned water park, it's just a regular loved theme flume log ride. In the show, it's a trauma dump ride for how Hera and Zeus don't love Hephaestus. It's literally like the entire ride is just kind of showing how his parents don't love him. I understand that trauma and grief and art can take many forms, but I think it's really crazy to make an entire ride about how your parents don't love you. Like, you made a fully functioning ride. I think most people just use diary or go to therapy. So they see where the shield is, and in the show, it's like a trap based off a mythological trap where Hephaestus made a throne that trapped Hera, and he trapped her in that throne until she would force Aphrodite to get married. So Percy ends up sacrificing himself again, even though he's like the most important part of this quest. It's like, dude, you have to stop sacrificing yourself. Everyone kind of needs you. Like, please prevent the atomic bombs. Percy sits on the chair, he becomes solid gold. Annabeth grabs the shield and she's like crying next to Percy. She's like, no, he's like trapped here. And then Hephaestus like comes in through some random maintenance entrance, and Annabeth convinces him to let Percy go. They return the shield to Ares, and he puts them on the back of an animal transport truck that's heading to Las Vegas. He tells them explicitly to head to the White Lotus Casino because Hermes hangs out there and he can tell them where the secret entrance to the underworld is in LA. Episode 6 starts out with Percy and Annabeth calling Chiron in the back of the truck, but Luke ends up picking up the rainbow foam. He tells them that the cabins at camp are going to war. They're kind of picking Zeus or Poseidon's side based off like normal kind of mythological alignments for either god. So they get to the Lotus Casino and it's completely different. They go in already knowing that they can get trapped there for all eternity if they eat anything. In the book and in the movie, they actually did a really good job with this scene in the movie. They have no idea that the Lotus Casino is the place where the Lotus Eaters give you lotuses to keep you trapped there forever. In the book and the movie, they just kind of randomly stumble across the Lotus Casino, so they're not prepared for it to be like a mythological trap. This makes the Lotus Casino scenes, which are some of the most entertaining parts of, I would say, both the book and especially the movie, really, really boring. It's a really boring casino. You can barely hear any music in the background. Everyone's just kind of quietly sitting at tables. In the book, it's described as like a kid's wonderland. There's like water slides coming from the ceiling. There's every single game you could ever think of, all the kind of food you could ever want to eat, all the movies you could ever want to watch. Like, this is a paradise. The point of the Lotus Casino is to be somewhere you would be trapped forever. It's supposed to be enticing. It's supposed to lure unsuspecting people in and make them want to stay. If I walked into this casino, I'd be like, I need to use the bathroom and leave immediately. There's really nothing for me here. This is so boring. So in the show, they're pumping like Lotus air out into the casino. So the moment you walk in, pretty much you're trapped. So they go in and they find Hermes, who, by the way, does not show up at all in the first book in the original series. I guess they were like, we really need Lynn to step in here and lend some star power. So Annabeth goes up to him and she's like, hey, we're friends of Luke's. You need to help us because you have majorly screwed that boy over and given him major daddy issues. And then Hermes is like, it's so hard to be an absent parent. You don't know how hard it is for me to be Luke's dad and like everyone's dad. I have like 50 kids, by the way. He's then like, hey, Percy, I know you and your dad have literally never talked, but cut him some slack. It's really tough being a bad dad. Hermes is then like, oh, by the way, time passes a little differently in this casino, so even though it feels like you only got here 10 minutes ago, it's probably been longer. They get out of there and they head to Santa Monica. They end up on the beach at Santa Monica, and then Percy goes in the water. Nereid speaks with him and gives him pearls that will provide him safe passage from the underworld. Do you want to know what else she tells him? She tells him they missed the deadline to return the bolt. So shouldn't World War III have like already started? I mean, the last time the gods fought, it was World War II. Why did you have the Golden Trio miss the deadline in season 1? It makes no sense. You know how authority figures give impossible, arbitrary deadlines and often seem to issue arbitrary, nonsensical rules just to assert their power? Then they want us to come begging for some kind mercy when we can't meet those impossible standards or demands? That's why. Where the fuck was that in the book, Becky? Deadlines like this one are extremely important throughout the series and are present in almost every, if not every, novel in the series. Removing the consequences associated with this deadline therefore removes the dramatic tension associated with the deadlines in not just The Lightning Thief, but every novel thereafter in the series. It also makes the gods look like they're absolutely no threats at all. Like, Zeus threatens a catastrophic war to get his main weapon of war back, the lightning bolt, and then just like doesn't follow through. Like, why even name a deadline if you're not going to follow through on it? The gods are so scary in the books because they have the power to make these kinds of threats and don't really care about the consequences their war will have on humans. In the series post-deadline, they say Zeus and Poseidon are starting to get ready to fight, but the time before the deadline was when they were preparing. We heard that already, that the cabins were starting to prepare for war, so I'm sure the gods were already starting to prepare for war pre-deadline. This is one of the changes from the books that's going to be really hard to recover from. You can't change a thing like this and then expect the audience to feel dramatic tension when you impose another arbitrary deadline that the heroes don't experience any consequences for not meeting. Why would you do this? Why would you do this? Episode 7 starts with Percy entering Procrustes' waterbed shop. Percy just walks in knowing who Procrustes is and what his trap is going to be based off his mythological stories. In the books, they get trapped and Percy has to cleverly fight his way out of the situation. Instead, in the series, they again remove all dramatic tension and he just kind of walks in and he's like, I know you're Procrustes. I know that the beds are a trap. let us into the underworld. I think when the show writers heard the phrase show don't tell in their writing courses in college, they must have heard, sure, go tell. Because where's the dramatic tension in Percy knowing exactly what he's walking into in every situation? I just think it's very frustrating to write like this. It's like you're trying to hit these plot points, but you're not understanding what made these plot points so interesting. You're not understanding how it made the book feel like an adventure. You're just kind of checking things off on a checklist. Anyways, they head into the underworld and Annabeth kind of gets caught and has to leave like halfway through their journey through the underworld. This is the second point in the series where they've just randomly removed one of the main trio. Grover's shoes, which again were a gift from Luke, start propelling themselves toward the pit of Tartarus where Kronos is currently living, but Percy saves him just in time. The lightning bolt also reveals itself in the backpack that Ares gave them as they approach the pit. They realize that Ares tricked them and he had the bolt the whole time. Percy and Grover enter the Palace of the Dead, and also they didn't do anything with the castle or like his palace at all. Like there's a lot of descriptions of it being really creepy and stuff like that, and it's just like black stone. Oh my god, like no one put any effort into anything. Also, Hades, in the book, he's described as like the first god that's really godlike. And this guy just isn't. They ask him to return Percy's mom, and he's like, maybe if you give me the freaking lightning bolt, I'll do that. Like, why would I give you something for nothing? And Percy's like, no, wait, we kind of need the lightning bolt to like stop this war, so no, I'm not gonna do that. Percy's like, no, but how about if I get you your stolen helmet back, you give me my mom back? I feel like that's fair. And then they're like, hey, bye, and then they use the pearls. This episode had a lot of Sally flashbacks. I've been skipping talking about pretty much all of them because they're not super plot relevant. The final one, though, is like funny to me. Sally meets with Poseidon pretty much right before the events of the first episode. Sally tells Poseidon that she's gonna take Percy to camp. It's getting too dangerous for him to be in the mortal world. Poseidon is like, yeah, it'll be a hard decision, but he'll be stronger for it. He's like, you're a good mom, Sally. And then Sally's like, do you wanna talk to your son? And Poseidon is just like, no, I don't actually want to. Like, oh my god. Can you please talk to your 12-year-old son who you've never seen before? All the dads. Our final episode of season 1. How nice. So Grover and Annabeth and Percy all end up on a beach, and Ares shows up, and then Percy's like, 1v1 me, bro. And if I draw blood on you, then you need to surrender the helm and let us keep the bolt. Percy and Ares end up fighting, and again, I think it's pretty short compared to the way it was described in the books. Again, probably a budget thing. So now they need to get to Mount Olympus quickly to stop the war that, like, again, should have already freaking started. I've given up. Percy goes to Mount Olympus to deliver the bolt to Zeus. They did a terrible job with Mount Olympus. All the energy they put into making Camp Half-Blood super cool, they just did not put into Mount Olympus. It's like, it's dark, it's empty. So it's just Zeus chilling in the council chamber when Percy gets there. Percy's like, hey, Kronos was behind everything, including stealing the bolt. Zeus is like, you missed the deadline. I am killing your father, even though he's immortal. You should feel lucky I'm sparing your life. Percy's like, Kronos is your real enemy. He just wants to weaken you. Why are you infighting? Zeus is like, throws a lightning bolt at Percy, and Poseidon steps in last minute, and he's like, I surrender the war. Zeus honestly comes across as like completely nonsensical. Like there is no logic in anything he said or did in this entire scene. Zeus pieces out and Poseidon has a conversation with Percy. This is the first time they've interacted. Percy asks if Poseidon ever dreams about his mom, and Poseidon just like doesn't answer him. He's just like, oh my gosh, geez, try to be a good dad for like 1 second. Like, would it kill you? Oh my gods, I guess. All the campers clap for him when he gets back. It's very deserved, as he prevented the rest of the war that like already should have started happening. Luke and Percy walk off together during the celebration, and Percy realizes that Luke is the traitor. I do like that Luke doesn't want to kill Percy in this version. He still thinks he can pull Percy over to his side now that Percy's been a bit more exposed to how messed up the gods are and how much they don't care about their offspring, or like honestly any humans. Luke's evil new sword, Backbiter, can also make portals for some reason. I don't know why, but you did that. You did it. Why? Luke and Percy fight for a little bit, and again, Percy's ass should have been completely dusted. Like, Luke's been at camp for 5 years. Percy, you've been there for 2 weeks. This should not have been an even fight. Annabeth shows up and she's like, I heard everything, Luke. You're evil. and Luke seems genuinely upset about Annabeth not being on his side, and he leaves. Another change I like is they had Dionysus walk around the camp like the town crier, telling people to get out if they were not staying for the summer, instead of it just being a random letter. Percy goes back to New York. There's an end credit scene where we learn that Sally is divorcing Gabe. Gabe picks up the package of Medusa's head and turns himself to stone. In the books, Sally does intentionally murder Gabe, so here it's just like an accidental killing. R.I.P. Show Gabe, you deserved maybe a little better. Like, I don't think he deserved to die. R.I.P. a mid-man was killed. Well, that was season 1. I had fun watching it, at least. Yes, I know I had a lot to pick on, but at the end of the day, it was still like mostly enjoyable. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. I think there were some things that they kept. Like, you had enough of a blueprint where there would have been something I enjoyed. I'm sure it came off like one of those like just read the book nerds, but in this case it does make your viewing experience like honestly worse, because you know the potential that this series had if it accurately followed the plot. There were so many parts of this series that were extremely disappointing and just like did not need to be changed, especially if you went in expecting a faithful adaptation like was promised. Here, Rick, since you clearly forgot your copy of The Lightning Thief when writing the scripts for the show, here's mine. Colombia, me encantó, me encantó.